is Scoreboard with Chris Titley. Powered by Swiftex. Where can crypto take you?
Hi, it's Chris Titley here on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast. I am joined by Emily Chancellor. Emily, thank you so much for being part of this podcast series.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm excited.
Now, we're at the end of the financial year. We're sitting here on Tuesday, 30th of June, 4:52. The accountants are going crazy right now. Everyone's getting their expenses in and whatnot right now. But you and I are sitting here having a chat on the podcast. First 6 months have gone for the year. Emily, how would you describe the first 6 months of 2026?
Fast. This year has absolutely flown by. Considering we started the year in the international calendar for the first time for the Wallaroos, and then now we're in Super W. I feel like we're only in February, but actually we're in June. It's crazy. End of it. So much has happened this year already, and fast. Fast would be the way.
Fast is the way to describe it. And speaking of fast, you've had a pretty fast schedule the last couple of weeks trying to lock you down, but you've been flying around the world. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I have had the absolute privilege of being part of the Barbarians women's team over in the UK last week. Played against Wales on the weekend. Flew in on Monday morning last week, met all my teammates and had to bond quickly and connect, and just had the most incredible experience in a team that you can't really set as an aspiration to be a part of, because it's not a team you get selected for based off how you play on the field. I think it's more about like the character, so you can't really change that, but I'm so honoured to have been selected and be part of something that I've watched the boys do for many years and seen as such a pinnacle of why we play rugby.
And just touching on the why you play rugby, some highlights around last week, and then also delving back into the reason around connection and travel and the opportunities that rugby has given you?
Why I play? I play because I love it. I play because it's a challenge every time you step out onto the field, whether it be at training or in a game. I play for the people and the connections. And I think, the Barbars experience is exactly that. It's about the connections. It's about falling in love with the game again. A lot of girls played their last game of rugby on the weekend in that team, whether it be that they'd finished 2 weeks ago or they finished 9 months ago or 12 months or a little bit more for some. And then there's a good mixture of us who are also still deep in the swing of things. So you've got a beautiful balance of people that are truly there for just because they love it. You know, they've been trying to keep fit or do whatever they need to do to get themselves to be able to play against an international team. But the best thing is because you're only together for the 6 days, you have to connect off the field, because there's just not enough time to be able to strategize and work perfectly on field together. Some of the memories or highlights of the week is just the laughs. I mean, the fact that we were doing it all in a heat wave in England seems ridiculous, but having an Italian roomie, our room air conditioning just didn't even come close to being below 28 degrees in the bedroom, because English air conditioning is not made for the cooler temperature. It's made to warm you up. Just so many laughs, so many things that you probably shouldn't talk about publicly. Good amount of drinking and socializing, but it's just the spending the quality time together with a group of people who are all on the same page of being there for the love of it and to want to connect and make these lifetime friendships.
Oh, that's amazing. That's incredible. And it's great to catch you so fresh off those lulls and the memories from that last week, and to have a chat about that. And speaking of rugby and connection, etc. You were quite a late starter in rugby. Do you want to give the listeners a little bit of an understanding of your journey and how that came about late in your, well, I wouldn't say late, but certainly late compared to others in terms of
Later.
later. Definitely won't say that 21-year-olds old or late, but at that age, how that came about.
Yeah, I grew up not really knowing that rugby was something that I could play. There weren't that many girls playing, so I couldn't be it because I couldn't see it. I watched a lot of rugby, always went to the Waratahs men's games with my dad growing up, went to Sydney Uni home games with my dad. I loved watching rugby. I played a lot of netball. I was a competitive swimmer. And it wasn't until I got to university, and I think I got an email that was sent generically to every female at Sydney University and probably across a lot greater reach than that, but just saying, come try rugby, road to Rio, rugby sevens is going to be an Olympic sport. Are you an athlete? Come and, come and see if you're made for it. And I was at a Swifts game with my best friend who I played netball with. We were watching the game and we'd got this email, and I said, do you want to just go and try? Like, wouldn't it be cool just to know you could tackle someone? And so we went along, and instantly I was like, the hit, the adrenaline rush of making a tackle or being tackled was something that I just had never experienced. And, obviously the motivation of potentially going to an Olympic Games was also high on the radar. Didn't quite make it in that seven space, but it definitely gave me the drive and the passion in the game of rugby to try 15s, and fell in love with it from there. So I played sevens purely until 2015, and then, so that's not that long if you do the maths on the age, for maybe 3 or 4 years, and then I went to 15s and never looked back from there, because the 15s just became the game that I realised I was supposed to play, not just because of the physical attributes that I have, but also just the fact that the game has a lot of strategy in it. You have to really work together. You've got opportunity to make mistakes. You get to sort of compete for longer, and you have to sort of manipulate your opposition through a full team perspective, not just relying on your individual speed, or missing a tackle is their try. So I really revel in the game of 15s, and I suppose I did start late, but the beauty is in the women's game that when I started, a lot of people started later. It's definitely changing now, but when I was entering the game, a lot of people, like I joined a club team to play sevens, and we were all fresh. None of us had played before. So we formed a team at Northern Suburbs Rugby Club in Sydney, and we were just all new girls. So we got to grow and learn together, which was pretty cool.
So good. And in netball in your earlier days, did you get a lot of contact then? You're thinking, oh, maybe this is, I just want to tackle someone. Was that the thought?
I was a centre wing defence, so I was naturally on the defensive side. I didn't mind a bit of a hip bump, but I definitely wouldn't have said that I was definitely keen for a tackle. I have a younger brother by 2 years, and we were never two to fight in the garden or wrestle or anything. He played rugby, but and I played soccer as well, and I wasn't particularly like a slide tackler or anything. Getting on the ground seemed unfamiliar for me. However, the physicality that I brought in netball makes sense now.
There you go. Yeah. And then one trait or one observation from the game of rugby when you first started that you were thinking, oh, this is an interesting game. Obviously, you've watched it growing up, so you knew a fair bit about it. But was there one thing that you go, oh, this is interesting?
I remember thinking the technicality of the breakdown is just, until you have to do it, you don't really consider like what the gate entry is, or how you're going to move a body. Like the technicalities around a breakdown, I think, are something that until you're actually doing it, you can understand the rule in theory, but it's very different when you're actually on field.
And then when you have had your best performances on the field, have you reflected on what went right there and why, and tried to replicate that? And if you did, and I'm talking about pre-game and routine and things like that, has that evolved over your career?
Absolutely, it has, and I think it should. Like there is supposed to be an evolution in your growth, the way you control things, the way you can let things go. I feel like the longer I've played, the less structured I've had to be for my pre-game routine. But I think it's also really important that you start with things that you think are non-negotiables, because they will help you perform. I used to be very conscious about what I ate, when I ate it, the big bowl of pasta before, and then it's sort of, then you challenge it and you're like, oh, maybe it's just I need to eat a big meal. So then it was I'd go to the pub and have a burger and relax the night before, but still have my game day undies, still have my, favorite sports bra. Very conscious about what I put on, and whether I took caffeine or not caffeine, how many coffees before. And now I feel like I've relaxed into knowing that I've done the preparation before the day, and as long as I know that I've done the work, the game day, whether you feel good or not, whether you have your favorite bra or you don't, you're a good player, and you just need to back your ability rather than it being perfect things need to create a perfect game.
Would you say there's an element of superstition versus structure, and there's a bit of a grey area?
There's definitely a grey area of both, but I think that they are both important as well. You do things and you think it works, so then you want to replicate it. You do want to hold on to some superstition and some structure, because both of them can create a sense of security to you and familiarity to you, to know that you've done what you need to do on that day. But I also think there's kind of a nice freedom when you can let those things go and realize that if you get 10 minutes to warm up, like we did this year in 2 test matches with rain delays and weather issues, if you have a 10-minute warm-up before a test match, you can still play some of your best rugby versus doing your normal 30 to 40-minute warm-up. And if you're too structured and too set in your way, those things can rattle you more than they need to. And I think sometimes when you perform without your structure and without your routine and your superstition, you also prove to yourself that they aren't the most important thing. They are important, but they are not why you perform. It's because of everything else you've done before it.
And do you see in maybe a different generation of players or age or whatnot, where athletes are potentially, in your view, wasting energy or doing different things that you look at now and go, wouldn't do it that way at all?
I don't think it's wasting energy. I think it's important to go through that process. I think you've got to find what works for you, and everyone has their own routine, their own structure, their own superstition that makes them feel like they're ready to perform. And I wouldn't have changed the way I did it when I was younger, or when I was going through different selection opportunities and through different experiences of big games, because without that, I wouldn't be the player that I am today either, and I wouldn't be able to be relaxed into believing in myself completely. It would be very hard to turn around to a player and say, don't worry about your pre-game, it doesn't matter, because it really does. It's just that I've had enough experience now to be able to be comfortable in it not having to be perfect. I still have structure, I still have routine, there's still things that I'd like to get done, there's still food I'd like to eat, but it's more the reassurance that if it doesn't happen, I'm not fussed. And if someone is fussing and stressing over that, I think it's also important to respect that from a younger player, because they're trying to work out, they're taking the game seriously, they're taking their preparation seriously, and you do want to respect when someone is doing what they believe is the best for them, which is then the best for the team.
And when it comes to becoming more serious in pressure situations and having fun and dealing with pressure, but at the same time enjoying the pressure, how do you deal with pressure? And you're a very bubbly person. You always got a smile on your face, but there'll be some instances where there's probably decisions to be made, or it's quite important. How do you deal with it?
I think less about things and just trust my instinct now. We've had to create this year at Waratahs our alter ego that steps onto the field, and using AI, so there's a visual as well. But we had to really answer a lot of questions about who the character was that walked on that field. And I really enjoyed. I would have found it really hard a few years ago, but I really enjoyed being kind of content with the character that I am when I step onto the field. And it's sort of a smiling assassin cross Tasmanian devil, if I could give you some kind of visual to think about. I'll smile, I've got fangs, I enjoy myself. I'm there to do a job. I'm not necessarily there to hurt you, but I do pack a bit of a bite if you do piss me off. So that's kind of how I approach, I suppose, my interactions with the referee, my big decision making in terms of whether I'm going for a breakdown or not. It's instinctual as much as it is intentional. And I do everything with a smile on my face, because I don't play rugby for any other reason other than I love it. And I think I can outwork most people. And to be honest, some people might play with a bit more anger and use it as a physical outlet. And I kind of do it as I can do this for longer than you, and I'm going to piss you off because I'm enjoying myself whilst you're getting angry. So yes, I've had thoughts about how to try and bring more anger or physicality or grr, but it hasn't really resonated with me, because it's not really in my character or in the way I play. So yeah, embracing the personality that I bring is pretty similar to who I am off the field. And I guess I just rely on that to go into the conversations, and rely on my previous experience or what I've set out to do as a goal for the game. Does that answer the question?
It does answer the question, and the element of trying to have more fun than others I've never heard before. So that's a brilliant angle, firstly. And then secondly, from a point of view of have you come across someone that you've played against or with that's having more fun than you?
I mean, everyone has different moments of fun. Perception of fun is also performance, right? You have more fun when you're winning. You have more fun when you're doing what you want to do and getting on the right side of the whistle, I suppose. So there's definitely always times where you feel like someone might be enjoying themselves a little bit more than you. But overall, I'm pretty content that I come out feeling pretty good about myself and enjoying the game. There's always games where you don't, and you have to just go back to your bigger picture and your why, and make sure that you're then fixing whatever it is that technically or tactically wasn't right, so that you can then enjoy yourself again when you're performing.
What's a compliment or something that you would aspire to have someone say to you after a game of rugby?
Gosh, you were relentless. I feel like the job of a 7 is to be always there, always a pest, a threat at the breakdown, whether you're successful on the ball or if their job is that they want to try and remove you from the ball, creates an opportunity for someone else. And I think same thing in attack. If I'm always there in support, always there at the breakdown to protect my team, that is ultimately a success in my role. You love a good you've got your hands all over our ball this week. That was so annoying. I love those comments, but I feel like the relentless factor is I don't need to be a superstar. I just want to be that person that is always there for my team.
That's a great way of putting the number 7 or describing the number 7. I'm curious, are you relentless off the pitch as well?
I like to think so. I think my teammates would say so. I'm a very curious person, and I do really enjoy learning. And if there's something I don't understand or something I haven't nailed, I want to get it. I want to understand it. I want to nail it. Um, so yes, I would say I am pretty relentless. If I have something that I'm hooked on, I'm going to keep doing it until I get good.
And then when it comes to leadership around learning and curiosity, have you taken things from other leaders of other sports or even business, etc., when it comes to leadership? And I'm curious around your journey on leadership and how you think of yourself as a leader.
I don't feel like I have been massive in like watching or reading other athletes in leadership specifically. I have read a couple of good books recently. I can't think of the name off the top of my head right now, but I've got a book that's sitting beside my bed that I just finished about um, the top team sports in the world, in the history of sport, and why those teams were good, like a proper analysis of why they were good. Um, and a lot of it came down to the leadership. I did get in my head a little bit when I was reading it, because you sort of wonder if you're then doing the wrong thing because you're not leading in a certain way. Um, and then I sort of reverted back to just like, you can't compare yourself. You can take lessons, but you can't always replicate, because you don't have the same characters in your team. You don't have the same culture. And to understand those things, and they're very unique to every team. So you do have to kind of be confident in your own style and who you are. I've been sure that I've been a leader my whole life, but you don't have to have a title to be a leader. I believe that leadership comes from actions, and leadership comes from owning your craft. And I truly have felt like that for a long time. So I feel like being given a title of a leadership role since the 2021 World Cup, played in 22, that was sort of the first year that I became part of a leadership group. And I don't feel like anything really changed, except you sit in more meetings. You learn, you listen to how people in your teams lead, and whether it's sat with the group, whether it flopped. Seek feedback all the time, because if you've got a message and you think you delivered it really well, but then people are like, I didn't like your delivery, or why didn't you yell at us then, or you yelled too much. I'm not listening anymore. Or someone asked if you had anything to say and you said no, and then you proceeded to speak. I stopped listening because you said no. Like, taking on those little bits of feedback are really important to be able to grow. I think you need to be content and confident in yourself as well, and listen to feedback, and sometimes go, I don't agree, because it might just be one person's opinion. But I think I work at the moment at Richard Crook's Construction, in the people and culture team 3 days a week, and I've had varying opportunities to be able to deliver some culture and leadership training within the organisation. And I've really enjoyed the comparison and the learnings that I've been delivering from what we want to deliver, and then thinking about how it relates to myself and sport and teams. And I feel really confident that what I do and how I want to be as a leader is very similar to how it is in the business world. And I definitely feel like I get a lot of good reflection through talking about leadership, and talking about how you want to be treated, and reflecting that then that's ultimately how you need to lead, is how you want to be treated as well. Like, you've got to set a standard, and you've got to be able to walk the walk, because if you're just talking the talk and you don't follow through with your actions, then it's not easy for people to try to follow you.
There's a heap of comparables, I'd imagine, from what you've gone through in elite sport into the workplace. And I think the people that don't play sport, that may struggle with some of the concepts of that. And it's, difficult, and that's why sport's so wonderful and teaches so many lessons of life. But going behind, and this is from someone that has not played elite sport, so I'm asking you, behind the scenes, there's a lot of grind and a lot of dancing while no one's watching. What's one thing that you think is that people don't understand potentially around elite sport?
Probably that decisions that are made in elite sport happen under extreme time pressure most of the time. And so your ability to make a decision, trust your gut, have a very quick, it might be eye contact with someone else that you need to make this decision with, or that it's going to affect them, or a really quick conversation, means that you really have to trust yourself and trust the people you're working with. And I think in the business world, you usually have more time. People might feel like they have more they do have heavier decisions to make. Ultimately, I'm playing. Yes, it's a elite sport. Yes, it's professional in some capacity, but ultimately we're entertainment, right? Like, if I lose a game of rugby because I make a bad call, it's absolutely devastating, but the repercussions aren't as high as they are in different industries. But I suppose that I don't want to undermine what I'm doing. But I think that people feel in the business world like they're making decisions, and then the bigger decisions, and then they wear them themselves because it's such a big decision, instead of being able to go, I don't know the answer, what should we do? If I'm under the post and I think I want to go for the 3, I have to check with my front row very quickly and say, well, do you think we can scrum? Do you reckon we can scrum here? I might go to my line out leader and say, or should we kick for touch? Like, you've got a really split decision, but you really, I can't decide if we're going to do a scrum, because if my front rowers are absolutely ruined, it's the wrong decision for the team. So I think, working collectively, but also making decisions under time pressure are probably 2 parts of leadership in sport. And probably the third thing is that in team sports, particularly rugby, we spend so much time together away from the field of training. So we really get each other socially, we get each other on a personal level, which makes the job so much easier. When I turn around and I ask something of people, they're not just seeing Emily that turns up to training. They know who I am as a whole character, and I know them. So I know how they work. I know how they tick. I know how to talk to one player versus how to talk to another, because we're friends. And you don't have to be friends with everyone, but you have to know and respect everyone. And I think that that's something that sport creates as an environment where you spend a lot of time together, be it on travel overseas, be it on days off, be it on nights after rugby, recovery days, whatever it is. Like, you spend a lot of time together outside of the job, in inverted commas. So I think that makes it a lot easier to do the job and make the calls for your team, because you really get each other.
You brought up a very interesting point around that at the workplace. And I used to work at a workplace where you'd spend a lot of time together. You'd sit next to someone, and sometimes people would joke you spend more time sitting next to someone than you would your partner or your kids or whatever it might be. This is pre-COVID. But then the sign of a good workplace for me was you could do the functions. You could go out and have a drink with them. You could they would back you, in a situation where there's a little bit of uncomfortableness. There would be group functions. There would be beers on a Thursday night. It's sort of disappeared, I think, post-COVID, that type of workplace, broadly speaking. So you brought up a very interesting point about the time spent with each other, because I think if you do understand someone and understand someone's situation and be empathetic / just understand, then when it comes to a bit of pressure and things start to unravel a little bit, there's a bit of teamwork there that it's okay, we got this, for instance. So, I wonder whether that's just a shift post-COVID, because people don't spend as much time in the office together anymore. Anyway, we could probably digress for hours on that. Have you got any thoughts on that, Emily?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you see a lot of cultures of workplaces starting to reintegrate into the desire to have you in the office a little bit more connected. And it is probably because of that. It's also very easy to silo yourself when you're not working together and just do your job. When you sit in an office and you share space, someone says something, you put your hand up and you help someone else very easily, which makes collaboration and that team feel so much more real, because you are actually interacting versus just sending a Teams message because it's something that directly relates to your job.
There we go. Now, we do have some questions that we always ask our guests, which is great because we get different diverse answers. And the first one is your scoreboard moment. And that's a moment in your life, and the name of the podcast is Scoreboard, so it's a scoreboard moment in your life that is so visible and something in your head that you remember so easily. And then from that moment, life changed for the better.
Good question. I feel like the first moment would be going to Sydney Uni to play 15-a-side women's rugby, and getting an experience of a group of girls who, all different shapes and sizes, all different cultural backgrounds, different levels of education, and just realizing that there was a place for everyone in this game, and everyone was friends. So for me, that team was the beginning of my love for 15s. And I think if I was in different cultures, in different teams, I might have had a very different experience. But I was so lucky to have such great leaders, a group of girls who trained like they were all representing their country, because we had a group of girls in that team who were representing their country in 2015. We had the Australian captain. We had, honestly, so many players at that stage that I idolized very quickly in the game because they were so good, and they turned up early and they trained. They did extras before, they did extras after, and they created this culture that, for me, said trying is cool, and you can be great if you put the effort in, and we're going to support you to put the effort in. And if you fail, that's okay, because we're here to try. And I think that really set a standard and lit something inside me that said, that really spoke to my character, I suppose, because I've always been a girl that's been willing to try. I'm not very good at everything when I start. In fact, I'm usually quite bad. I'm just determined that if I want to be good at it, I'm going to make sure I get the skills, and I try again. So to walk into a team where that was celebrated and encouraged probably sparked the fire in my desire to be really good in this game far quicker than it would have if I was in an environment where I was scared to try and scared to learn. Yeah, let's go with that. That's a good moment.
It is a good moment.
Maybe not specifically Scoreboard.
That's okay. No, that's fine. It's just, it's a branding of the podcast, right? I have to say Scoreboard, so people remember the name of the podcast.
Of course.
And then obviously, molding your character into, what was it? The Silent Assassin crossed with the Tasmanian Devil. Was it? Is that what I think it was that you mentioned before?
Yeah.
So that the early grounds of that on where you are now. Now, we also have a couple of sponsors in Scoreboard, and they help pay the bills. And SwiftX is our major sponsor, and they've just re-signed for another 12 months, which is fabulous of them. And I think their support, SwiftX, is Australia's most trusted cryptocurrency platform with over 1.5 million users in Australia and New Zealand. As part of their partnership, we ask a question, which is your bucket list sporting event that you would love to see live as part of their campaign, Where Can Crypto Take You? Emily Chancellor, where would you love to go and watch sport live that you haven't watched thus far?
Well, I was going to say, until you said the last sentence, the Women's World Cup in 2029 in Australia. I don't know exactly where the games will be played yet, so it might be in a stadium that I've never been to before. But I am particularly excited about the idea of what a home World Cup can bring. No pressure, but the 25 World Cup and the 21 World Cup were incredible displays of women's rugby. And the support that the countries showed were impressive. And I'm really excited to be a part of the 29 World Cup in some capacity. But if I was going out on a wild limb, on my way home from the Barbarians trip, I watched the F1 movie, and I have this new, I don't want to say passion yet because I haven't really dived into it, but I have a new desire to really dive into the F1 world and understand that more. And so maybe it would be going to one of the Grand Prix or whatever around the world, because they have great destinations as well.
Yes, Singapore, Monaco, Melbourne. Can't think of the other. I think it's Bahrain. There's another one as well. But Monaco's come up quite a bit in people's bucket list sporting event that they'd love to attend and either fly in the private jet or sit on a private yacht and watch some Formula One in Monaco. Sounds like a good plan for some people. So there you go. Maybe crypto could take
Sounds terrible.
Sounds terrible indeed when I sit here on a dark and gloomy at 5:28 p.m. Brisbane night. Now, we have another sponsor in PocketSmith, and PocketSmith is the personal finance app for the household CFO, the one keeping the budget in check, paying the bills and kicking goals. Over 80,000 Aussies use PocketSmith. Actually, no, I have to upgrade that. Over 100,000 Aussies use PocketSmith to track their spending, see their net worth, and plan ahead. And with all the money and sport and the entertainment business, as you mentioned before, I'm curious, Emily, are you the CFO of your household? Are you a budgeter?
I am a budgeter. I have different accounts for different spends. I track my spending. I did read The Barefoot Investor early days of my at uni, and I definitely latched on to a few things that was talked about in that book. But I definitely like to budget things, and I won't say I'm stingy, but I'm thrifty in my use of money a lot of the time.
Excellent. Thrifty Emily. Now, a question on that. Did you end up signing up with an ING account back in the day that everyone used to do the orange card as one of the buckets?
I did, and I still use my ING account for overseas travel because not having to pay for the transaction fee is a big win. I'm sure a lot of other banks do that now too, but that's what I still use it for, is knowing that I can, when I go overseas, and I do spend a bit of time overseas, using that to not have to pay the crossover is important.
I reckon that was about 2007, 5. I reckon maybe 2000, when in my era, it was everyone was signing up the ING cards. They're like, so where's the branch? Well, they don't have a branch. Oh, why not? Well, because they pay more interest. Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Crazy.
So that was, crazy. There you go. So that was 20 years ago. Maybe. Who knows? Anyway, one final question for you is your favourite all-time sporting moment, and I preface this that it can't include yourself. It's something you can watch on YouTube 10,000 times.
A moment I've watched many times was the Waratahs men winning the Super Rugby final in 2015.
Yes.
I think it's 2015. Watching Bernard
Ewan
Foley,
McKenzie?
maybe 2013.
No, Ewan McKenzie was the Reds.
It was Bernard Foley. It was Checker was the head coach.
Michael Checker,
Bernard
that's right.
Foley kicking that final penalty.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a good era of Waratahs. I remember sitting at ANZ Stadium with my brother. My parents were sitting somewhere else because we could only get seats of 2. Me and my brother sitting there on like the 22, just going crazy. So excited to be there what a great moment for a team that our family really has always supported. Special.
Such a special moment, and I was there in 2011 when the Reds did it too, and being a Reds supporter for so much of my life, and my mum as well, who's a season ticket holder, it was one of those moments you'll never forget. And we're going to finish that on a high. What a way to finish, Emily Chancellor. Thank you so much for being on Scoreboard, the podcast today, and sharing some insights and some glimpses of your life and what it's like to be an elite athlete and the traits that you're learning on the pitch and off the pitch, and all the wonderful stuff that comes with playing sport and playing rugby in particular. I wish you all the very best for the upcoming season and the future aspirations, and looking forward to supporting and sharing anything that I can in the meantime to support you. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's been a pleasure to be on the show. Good questions. And some great reminiscing moments of I suppose taking it back to the why I play, and that seems to be very high on my mind at the moment, which is really good for the love of rugby.
This has been another episode of Scoreboard with Chris Titley. Go back and check out some of the other episodes you might have missed.